Well, so it's a day full of meaning anyway. And then the top of the agenda, Collingwood beats Melbourne. So it's a significant upset in the course of our season. Melbourne had been 11-1, but it echoes far beyond that. The last day of Nathan Buckley at Collingwood, he's seen off in victory.
Collingwood will always be a passion, and I will always want to see it as an organisation and the people within it prosper, and I'll be supporting from afar. I'll sit down and have a couple of beers with everyone tonight. The club goes into the bye, and it's a good position. Well, it's a good feeling to go into the bye with, and they'll come out the other side, and halves will take the reins and continue on its path. For me, I'll go in at some stage this week when no one's around and clear the office and consider what my next step is. I mean, I do believe that when you're in something, you're 100% in, and I think when you're out of something, you're probably 100% out. Otherwise, you're wasting energy. So that's what I've learned in my time. So I can't give you a really clear roadmap right now.
From weights and measures, it didn't make a whole lot of sense, and yet if you follow sport from a certain point of view, is the afternoon unfolded as if fated?
Yeah, no, we look at numbers all the time to talk about football, but it's so hard to measure emotion and all those things that Marc Murphy talks about, the unknowns, and whether you got it, you haven't got it. And certainly Collingwood had it today, and Melbourne stands accused. They thought they had it today. They thought they had it, Melbourne. And it makes them gettable because mentally they're not as switched on as they should have been, and that'll be noted later in the year. But you know what it is? It's a magical football day, Jared, and you know how coaches talk about, I've only had 8 great days or 4 great days in my life. That was the 4 grand finals, and you think, really, is footy that hard and that too hard to enjoy as you go through the journey? Buckley this week and the last week has spoken about the journey a lot. But you know what? Today was worth 4 points, but it was a gift. I've written tomorrow. It's a gift of respect for a guy that got the respect from his team. You know what? In a lot of ways in the last week, what people have read and heard and listened to Nathan Buckley, he's gained an enormous amount of respect. So, hey, enjoy the win. I'm not saying you deserved it, but you got it.
Yeah. So I was in it for the scenes after the siren. For three-quarter time when the match is in the balance and they're up by 5 points, and then when how much does it mean? And Scott Pendlebury embodied the last quarter
massive.
To how much. I mean, I don't know whether he said anything or whether he just went, this is what it looks like. And then on the siren, the embraces, and to every player he went to in the aftermath, it started with thanks, mate. Whatever the embrace was and whatever words followed that, it started with thanks, mate.
But that's what I've learned. But people always say to people in the media, well, what's he like? What's he like? What's he like? We often just see amount of the football person as much as the media. And occasionally we have, telephone conversations. But I've learnt this week that he's a very selfless person. When everyone accused him of being a very selfish footballer, and he probably was, but that was his greatness about him, that he wanted to achieve everything out of himself, that had become a really self-centeredness to improve himself. And as he's gone through his life and he's started coaching, and again, the stories we've read in the last couple of days, I don't know if you read it today, but Jay Clark wrote it in the Herald Sun about, every day or every so often he would sit with a homeless person and just talk to him about life. I had no idea about that. So, I've learnt a lot about Nathan Buckley in the last 3 or 4 days than I knew beforehand.
Yep. So a lovely send-off. The match itself...
Couldn't be any better, really.
No, it could have been. What? If it had been in front of 86,000 at the MCG, and I was thinking about that early in the last quarter when it was for all the marbles, and you can think about how invested Collingwood people would have been, given he's been the biggest figure in their time following football for so many of them.
Would have been 90, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would have been heaving, and the emotion that was involved in it. And so the fans at Hound they made a din at the end, and they got their Collingwood chant going. But I did have that feeling, imagine what that is echoing around the MCG for Bucks to leave that venue.
Do you think he will how will they serenade him, Nathan Buckley?
Yeah.
Or will he want one? He just said you're the 100 in or you're 100 out.
So in the end, they have marched him as coach. They don't want him to be the senior coach anymore, which we understand the reasons for that. Today's where it belongs. You don't go back. Now, he would be invited back to the best and fairest because he coached half the season. So that would look like an appropriate moment, sort of in a closed environment. But today's the day where he coaches for the last time. That's agreed by club and individual. And it lives there. In a way, I think it would be to spoil it if you tried to recreate any of today in a bigger environment.
I'll see.
So the match is a 17-point win for the Pies. In a game, so their second quarter was outstanding when they took 8 marks to 1 inside 50, and they had to overcome their own foibles right through the day, Robbo, and that has been at the core of who they are this year, as they threatened to sabotage themselves on numerous occasions, but they were up for it at every moment where Melbourne even raised the challenge, and they traded the lead through that third quarter.
No, again, it was a magical. What you called the game, Jared. When did it first dawn on you? Like, hang on, what? Look at this. This could be interesting.
In the second quarter.
In the second quarter.
Yeah, and then the challenge for Melbourne, because you can't be oblivious to the emotion coming from the other team, was to snuff it out decisively and early, so that you didn't allow the idea of the emotional farewell to grow. And they weren't able to do that. They made their run at Collingwood in the third quarter, but Collingwood kept answering. They kept landing the answering goal. And I did feel at three-quarter time, unless the fates were going to be so cruel to Nathan Buckley again, that they did look like the winners, I thought, earlier in the last quarter.
Yeah, I watched more of the second half than I did the first go because I was doing a lot of writing, and I was looking at it and I thought two things. There's been a bit of accusation about Buckley losing the players this week, and I wrote about it last week, and I spoke to you about the scenes as they were coming off the ground. He got his team up again this week. A lot of grit, listened to how they wanted to play, but you've got to buy in. You've got to buy in. He can tell you how to play, but you've got to buy in. And he did it. Superb. He's won the last 2 games and lost his job.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen a lot in AFL footy. The other side, Melbourne, you know, as Fags would say, you win or you learn. And Melbourne will learn today, in my opinion, Melbourne will learn today that don't you ever take an opponent as if you're going to, your natural skill, and we'll just turn up and play and we will win. That's the learnings from them today. They played like smart asses today. And Simon Goodwin will say, everyone go on. I don't think he'll say go on the bye break and have fun. Go on your bye break, but remember one thing. Don't be ever like that again. So this could be a really good thing for Melbourne going forward. Everyone needs a slap across the face sometimes, Jared. And, anyway, they got one. They got one today.
Yep. I didn't quite read it that way, but we'll talk to the coach about it shortly.
Hang on. Okay. Well, how did you read it?
So they were not oblivious to the chat. They were going to get a heightened Collingwood today. Now, if they were oblivious to that, shame on them. I don't think that was it. I thought... So Lynch out-rucks Gawn in the first half. That's a bit startling.
No, I did see part of that.
That's sort of a football consequence, isn't it? So then Gawn lifts his rating in the third quarter, and it's every shoulder to the wheel. But I don't know.
I don't think they have the same urgency.
No, maybe not.
I don't think they have the same urgency.
So maybe urgency is fair.
We've seen Melbourne respond with urgency
so I didn't
when
think they
teams
were smart,
come at them.
Alex. I just
think it's got away from them too far, and they thought, well, let's try and do something now. Well, too late. Stop playing your own mind games in your own head, Jared. Oh, no, 10 minutes to go, only a couple down, we'll be right. No. Footy doesn't work like that. You've got to work from the start to the end. Anyway, we'll listen to Simon Goodwin. But it's not a terrible loss.
No, and 11-2 is a good position to be attacking from. And your point around what Damien Hardwick calls losses gifts at times, this might serve Melbourne well. They have curiously lost to Adelaide and Collingwood, who occupy the lower reaches.
And how does a team do that, mate?
And they've picked off all the teams.
So how does a team do that? Why does a team do that? Does a team go in thinking, oh, we're only playing Melbourne and Adelaide? Oh, sorry, we're only playing Collingwood and Adelaide? The mental side of footy, we talk about it all the time. Only Melbourne will know that. Only Melbourne will know that. So we can all surmise. We'll have to see if Simon Goodwin agrees.
And that the beauty of sport's not played by automatons, and that's part of it today. So the coach will be with us shortly.